Alright, so UFC 303 this weekend, Pereira versus Prochazka, the rematch. Obviously this card was meant to be McGregor Chandler, but that fell through along with the co-main about 5 times. So yeah, now obviously we got this fight, Lopez versus Ortega, which was a pretty decent co-main event with the late notice time frame that the UFC had to work with. And then obviously Anthony Smith fighting a middleweight, which, let's be real, was probably his natural weight class. Anyway, this is the first time we're covering a pay-per-view on the channel. Looking forward to it. As I said, fair play to the UFC for getting this put together after the absolute shit show that it was looking like it might turn out to be. Last week, just a quick rundown. How'd we go? Not great, to be honest. 7-5. 3-2 on the main card, 3-3 on the prelims. At least I'm consistent in that respect. Over all time, now we're 20-16, which is just over a 55% pick rate. So not very good, to be honest, but we'll look to improve it this week, hopefully, eh? I mean, last week it was tough. Pavlovich looked absolutely nothing like himself. I don't know what was happening there. I'm just going to cope and say it looked like he had a broken hand, but probably didn't. But like Whitaker looked like a killer. Obviously Aliskerov coming on late notice, but yeah, it's a great knockout. Excited to see where he's going from here. Right, so yeah, we're going to start off with the prelims, the early prelims, the pay-per-view. We got Ricky Simone versus Vinicius Oliveira. I reckon Simone's going to outlast Oliveira here. He can go the full 15 minutes for sure. He is coming off back-to-back losses against Song Yadong and Mario Bautista, I believe. Bit of a step down in competition here for him. He's a favourite. I reckon he'll get done. Oliveira, I was just looking through his record before, and he has a lot of first round knockouts. Particularly, I think he has a few subs as well. Not sure if they're in the first round, but lots of first round finishes throughout his career. So I'm wondering whether he can be the nail or not. And I think with Ricky Simone, we'll find that out. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Simone by decision. The next fight, Tsuruya versus Hernandez. Hernandez has lost to some pretty good guys recently, in particular Tatsuro Taira. But I'm just going to go with a prospect here, Ray Tatsuro off the road to UFC. The one thing I noticed about he's 9-0 with 4 knockouts, 4 subs, and 1 decision. I think of his submissions though, I think he's got two rear naked chokes, and a scarf hold armbar and something else. A real interesting array. It's like he's going for the same thing all the time. So I like his grappling. Obviously you haven't really watched him. I like that array of submissions that he's got. So I'm just going to pick him. I reckon he'll get it done here, probably by decision. Maybe a sub, I don't know. Just going to go decision though. Next up, Arlovski versus Bidet. I've got a pretty simple breakdown here. Arlovski is an old man. He's 45. Bidet is a slightly less old man at 32. Bidet is also a larger human than Arlovski. I think he's an inch taller, but Arlovski doesn't weigh in at the limit, whereas Bidet does. And Bidet is not scared to get in a car crash, which I think favours him here. Obviously, Arlovski is getting on the older side now, as I mentioned, and I think he's chinnable. However, I do think Bidet is just going to get done by decision. Over the distance, I think he'll damage Arlovski. I reckon Arlovski will be like a walking zombie at the end of the fight. This could age terribly, but yeah, I just like Bidet in this spot. Moving on to the last fight of the early prelims, Michelle Waterson-Gomez versus Gillian Robertson. 2 lowly ranked women's strawweights here. Because I like Michelle Waterson-Gomez, like her style, like her stand-up, like karate kind of style. But I feel like every time I say that, they go on to lose. I'm still going to pick her. I'm going to pick her by decision, so a bit of a slow decision fest on the early prelims. That's what I've got here. She actually has a fair few wins by submission, though. Nine of them. Didn't expect that from when I've watched her. Tricky, but didn't expect that. Robertson is terrible on the feet, in my opinion. She's just weak. there in that aspect, and I don't think the ground advantage she has is going to be big enough to work that over Michelle Waterson-Gomez, who actually has reasonably good defensive grappling. So I'm going to go Waterson-Gomez here by decision. I think she'll stuff the takedowns of Robertson and play her distance game with the karate. And yeah, I think she's going to get done over the distance. So that's the early prelims. Onto the prelims, just the normal prelims, ESPN prelims, I guess they are. Maybe, I don't know. Peyton Talbot versus Yanis Gamori. Talbot is a gigantic favourite, huge prospect. I think there is a path to beat Talbot through grappling and like a ground game, but I don't think Gamori has the skills to do this. I personally don't think Talbot's going to stay undefeated in the UFC forever. I do think he'll get beaten eventually. As I say, I think there's a path there, but let's be real. The UFC obviously want Peyton Talbot to win this one here. They've given him what's supposed to be a layup. And yeah, I'd be seriously surprised if he was upset here, so I'm going to go for Peyton Talbot. I think he'll get a knockout probably in like the second round or something, just break him down and just go for it. Yeah, so Peyton Talbot by knockout or TKO. Probably, I think he'll get a knockout more than a TKO, but that, I guess it doesn't really matter too much. Anyway, moving on. Charles Jourdain versus Jean Silva? Yeah, Jean Silva? Jean Silva. It's not French. Charles Jourdain's a favourite here. I find that interesting, but I do also think he's going to win. Bit of a contradiction there, but anyway, yeah, I think Jourdain's going to stop John Silva's role here. Silva hasn't lost since 2018. I do like how Charles Jourdain's been active. Like, I think he's had like at least 2 or 3 fights a year for like since like 2019, maybe even extending out before that. But that's what I looked at. I think I like Jourdain. Jourdain's got a cool stand-up. I remember his fight against the one in Canada, Sean Woodson. Super close split decision. I thought it was close anyway. I liked Jourdain in that fight as well. But yeah, so I reckon he's going to get this done over Jean Silva. I haven't really seen Jean Silva a hell of a lot. Yeah, I just Charles Jourdain by decision. I think outstrike him over the distance. Cub Swanson versus Andre Fili. I think Fili's going to win a decision here. Swanson is super old now, and I recognise that Fili also is not a spring chicken at 34. But Fili's like a bit bigger than Cub Swanson. And since being obviously Fili being 34, Cub being 40, I mean the age does become a bit of a bigger factor at the lower weight classes. So I think that's going to play into it here. I think Fili's just going to outpoint him, be bigger, possibly work a bit of grappling, maybe not, I don't know, could just be a stand-up fest. Anyway, yeah, I've got Fili winning by decision. And in the final fight on the prelims, before we move into the main card, we've got Joe Pyfer coming off his loss against Jack Hermansson, against Marc-Andre Barriault, I believe also coming off a loss against Chris Curtis in Canada in 297. I think that was his last fight. Yeah. I mean, how does Barriault like to fight? Barriault fights on the inside in the pocket, likes to work the dirty boxing in that, but I think power advantage is definitely on Pyfer's side. I think he'll knock him out. I think Pyfer will be motivated after the Hermansson loss. And I think he'll want to bounce back here. A pretty sizable favourite. Yeah, Barriault's just not all that powerful. And Pyfer is, and just the style of fight that Barriault likes to fight, I think will allow Pyfer to get a knockout. I'm going to say late first round, early second. I don't think it'll take too long for it to happen. Yeah, good way to finish off what could potentially be some quite slow prelims and early prelims. Just looking, I think 6 out of the 8 I've picked to be decisions. So let's hope I'm wrong there. But yeah, I'm quite confident who I've gone for. Right, moving into the main card, we've got Ian Machado Gary versus Michael Venom Page. Obviously, both like fighting at range, both strikers predominantly. Yeah, MVP definitely. Machado Gary keeps on going on about this world-class grappling he's got. That's one thing that does concern me though, is that chat about that. Like, is he going to try and take MVP down? If he does, is he going to get very much success? I don't know. I mean, other than that, I do like what I saw from MVP against Kevin Holland. I thought that was actually a pretty decent win. I thought like it was a close-ish fight, but I definitely thought MVP won it. Yeah, I think Gary's both have got the potential to win by knockout here, but I think MVP is going to clip Ian Gary. I think he's going to get it done by knockout. Therefore, I think it will happen in the third round. I think it'll be an interesting fight. It could be kind of boring. It could be like two distant strikers just jumping away from each other. Yeah, I didn't realize how old MVP was, man. 37. Gary being 26. But yeah, I'm still pretty confident in this fight. I definitely think MVP is going to win. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes in the way of decision. I think he's going to pick him apart. I think he's a wee bit sharper on the feet, although that's not saying Gary's a slouch, but I do like MVP there. Yeah, a bit more experience, obviously, with his run pre-UFC and Bellator and that. Yeah, so yeah, obviously MVP knockout round 3. That's what I'm going for. Now, Mario Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep this one pretty short. Bueno Silva's going to win, I think. I like her grappling. I think she's going to work it here against Chiasson. Chiasson's not bad by any means. A fairly solid fighter in the UFC. But she did get subbed by Raquel Pennington, therefore. Mauro Bueno Silva, submission round 2. I do like Bueno Silva's grappling. Pretty solid. Yeah, Chiasson won't stop him, I think. I think she'll get her down, and I reckon she'll sub her. Round 1 or 2. I've gone 2. Right, Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. I think, because, like, I mean, Dolidze's a bit of a steamroller. He'll come in, he'll throw. I think Smith will throw down with him for a bit. I reckon once Dolidze gets rid of that initial burst, though, I think Anthony Smith is going to take over with the boxing in that. Probably like a slightly bigger guy, obviously fighting up a weight class. Usually, Dolidze might be a bit. Obviously, he's not going to have to cut as much weight, but he might not be in as good a shape coming in shorter notice than Smith. Yeah, I do think it's a close fight. I just favour the bigger guy on the short notice, and I mean, he's got slightly less short notice. He's only lost to really good guys lately, Roundtree, Walker, and Ankalaev. One against Petrino was impressive. Yeah, so I'm going to go Smith by decision. Maybe 7? I don't know. Dolidze is not bad on the ground though either, so that would surprise me a little bit. Okay, moving on to the co-main event. Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. Yeah, I think Lopes can hold his own on the ground, which is where Ortega is most dangerous. I mean, for God's sake, Ortega got dropped by Yair's hands in Mexico City back on that fight night. So I just don't see how he's not going to get dropped here by Diego Lopes. Yeah, I don't know why they've got Diego Lopes listed as 157 pounds on the UFC website. That's weird. Anyway, yeah, Lopes is heavy-handed. I think he'll knock him down in the first round. Might just let him back up because that perceived threat on the ground. And then I think by the time we get to the second round, he's going to knock him down again, follow him to the ground, ground and pound TKO. Reminiscent of his win against Sadiq Youssef at 300. I like Diego Lopes a lot. I hope he can go far because I think, like, for example, him versus Ilia Topuria will be absolutely sick as a matchup. Him versus Max Holloway would be sick. Yeah, so that's my pick. Lopes by knockout. Well, ground and pound TKO more in round 2. Now, moving on to the main event. Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prochazka. A fight we saw, 8 months ago or so, back in November at MSG. I've watched the first fight a lot of times, even before this was booked, in the last 6 months. I watched it in the lead up to 300, and that I cannot get over how much trouble Yuri actually had Alex in. I watched the fight back, and if you didn't know that Yuri won, that Alex won and knocked out Yuri, you would be you could be mistaken for thinking that Yuri had the upper hand there. He was pushing him back against the fence. Alex didn't actually have a hell of a lot of success apart from the leg kicks, obviously, which he had a lot of success with. Yuri needs to do something about that anyway. Got screwed by Rakic in that department as well. But anyway, I think Yuri's a super awkward matchup for Alex. Alex is being more like a standard kickboxer, if you know what I mean. With Yuri's got all his crazy movement and leaning forward with his chin on a platter, which in theory shouldn't work against Alex, but I think it might. And also Yuri does have that takedown threat as well, which we saw him get Alex down. Obviously, Alex got up. But Alex's main defense of a takedown seems to be guillotine, which, I mean, I'll eat my words if he pulls off a guillotine here, but I just don't see that happening. Do I think Alex can knock him out again? For sure. I definitely do think that's possible. But do I also think Yuri can put Alex out? I do, based off the evidence I saw in the first fight. I saw enough to give me pause to just pick the guy that won the first time. I don't see it as linear as that. Obviously, Alex ran through Jamal Hill, hardly got touched, apart from a few kicks. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Yuri. It's a tough pick, but I think he's going to knock him out in round 3. I think it's going to be an absolutely insane fight for as long as it lasts. Yeah, I think it's going to be a crazy one. I honestly think this might be up there. If this goes any longer than, like, if this ends the second round, it could be fight of the year, just purely based off that. I think it's going to be a firefight. Both guys are not afraid to get in there and throw down. Alex's broken toe injury rumors, obviously we know that did actually happen, but I don't know what state they're in now. He has been travelling to Australia, and that obviously it looks like he's been doing some training with some guys there, but I don't know how serious that's been, if you know what I mean. How tuned in he's been, how locked in he's been. Yuri probably has been training since a week after 300, after his win against Rakic. Yeah, I think he's going to blast him. I think Yuri is going to knock Alex's lights out in similar fashion to Izzy. Maybe not quite as dramatically, but I think he's going to knock him out. Anyway, overall thoughts. Great card. Pretty solid pay-per-view, to be fair, in the end. As I say, like, it probably lacks some like huge marquee fights outside of the main event. But they're all good matchups for sure. Really interesting. Worth watching the whole thing, in my opinion. I think from start to finish it's going to be good. There's going to be a few decisions, though, I do think, as in my predictions, so you might want to have something else on hand to do at the same time. But worth watching for sure. And the main event is going to be fireworks, whichever way it goes. So yeah, let's hope for the good thing about a Yuri win would be that you'd probably get the trilogy later on in the year, which would be awesome. Both guys on full camps would be cool again to see. Whereas if Alex wins, it's unlikely we see these two matched up again, unless Alex wins a couple more title defenses and Yuri can bounce back. But I don't know. I can't see the matchup being made again if Alex wins. So therefore, that's one of the reasons I want Yuri to win, because I want to see this fight again. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Sorry, a bit of a rambly one. Yeah, like and subscribe if you like. And yeah, cheers. Catch you guys next week.